This is not our fight. The editorial board of The Nation magazine said this: if the United States and Russia work together, they could use their combined influence to choke off the flow of arms from the outside and contain the conflict as they work toward a ceasefire. If they don't, Syria's disintegration will spread throughout the region. But if Congress votes yes for this resolution, there's no telling where or when spreading disintegration stops. Joining me tonight, Congressman Alan Grayson of Florida and Congressman Jim McDermott of Washington. Gentlemen, great to have you with us tonight. Congressman Grayson, you first. Why is this not our fight?
It's not our fight because no Americans have been killed, none of our allies have been killed, and you have to go through this bizarre remote chain of causation to reach a point where it actually would matter to anybody who the Department of Defense is supposed to be defending. In addition to that, there are no good options. The attack that's being contemplated won't do any good, and it's expensive, and it's dangerous.
Congressman McDermott, will it have an impact on House members now that the Senate Foreign Relations Committee has passed 10-7? How robust is the debate going to be in the House, and where's the momentum right now? There's three questions at you, but capsulize it for us where we are.
Well, we are at a place where I think everybody is looking to their own emotions to see what they think they ought to vote, in which way they should go. The Senate vote was divided. It wasn't party line. I really think, though, Ed, the president is quite sure of his position. I think he should go to the General Assembly of the United Nations and make a speech and get the world behind him. He is going alone. If he decides and we turn him down, he may go to Iraq or Syria anyway. And at that point, he's going to be alone. I think he really needs to let the world know exactly what he knows and why he's doing what he's doing. And that diplomacy has really fallen off the table in all this talk. It's either military strikes or do nothing. Well, there is another option. It's called diplomacy.
Yeah. Congressman Grayson, you were in that House Foreign Relations Committee hearing today. Did Secretary Kerry give straight answers, or are we getting a sell job?
Well, I think the answers were straight, but at this point we've heard it all. You know, they haven't come up with any new information now in a substantial amount of time. What's actually happening now is that the members who have already heard the arguments from the administration are hearing from their constituents, and the constituents are overwhelmingly in favor of this. The polling that's public at this point dramatically understates people's opposition to this. The polls indicate people are opposed, but what you're finding is that the opponents are inflamed. They're angry about this. They're angry about the thought that we'd waste $1 billion or more on a military adventure like this when we've got our own problems to deal with. People don't want us to be the policeman for the world any longer. They don't want us to be the judge, the jury, or the executioner. We've had 35,000 people already come to our website, don'tattacksyria.com, with more every minute. People are angry about the thought that we'd be involved in war again.
I agree. I hear the anger on the radio. People cannot believe that we're having this discussion with this president. Congressman McDermott, who pays for this? And how do we know it's not open-ended?
You know, Ed, I made a suggestion to my staff. We ought to get an amendment ready to put a tax on to pay for it. As Alan suggests, it's going to cost about $1 billion. Why don't we just raise taxes and pay for it right now? We didn't pay for Iraq. We didn't pay for Afghanistan. We ought to start paying for things now. The sequester's hurting our economy, and the budget's coming up, and we got all kinds of problems, and here we are spending more money on a war. And gentlemen, makes no sense.
And gentlemen, what do you say to those who, and the president and Secretary Kerry, who says that our image will be damaged in the world and that we have a moral obligation? Alan, what about that?
It's nonsensical. We look foolish to the world. We're out on a limb here. We're the only ones who are even contemplating any sort of serious attack. If the world were behind us, that would be an entirely different story. The world is against us. Most countries wouldn't even consider the possibility of doing something like this. There are 196 countries in the world. Why is it always our responsibility? This time the answer is it isn't.
What about the response from Assad? Can we assume that he will strike us? Can we assume that he will hit back against the Israelis? I mean, this is all theory, thinking that we're going to blast 200 cruise missiles at him, Congressman McDermott, and there's not going to be any response that isn't going to have big-time ramification.
The question I asked this morning when we talked with the Chief of Staff of the White House was, what will we expect on Friday after you do this on Monday? There is no question we have no idea what the response will be from Syria or from Russia or Iran. We really are lighting a fire and not knowing what's going to happen when we light the fire. I'm going to have a town meeting on Sunday night before I come back to Washington, D.C., because I want to hear from my constituents whether they think it's a good idea. So far, the mail and the phone calls are running 100 to 1 against doing anything.
Mm-hmm. Congressman Grayson, what is this going to do to the House? Do you anticipate some Republicans voting no on this? I mean, there's a lot of them that are non-committal right now. I mean, they hate to support President Obama because they hate the guy, yet they don't want to look weak on national security in the next election. I mean, the president in some way has got them in a political pickle, doesn't he?
Not at all. They think that going into the situation makes us look weak and exposes us to danger. As Jim just pointed out, there's so many ways this can go wrong. Syria and Hezbollah can counterattack against Israel, just as Iraq did when Iraq was attacked by the United States. They can attack our U.S. Embassy in Beirut, which is a 2-minute flight from the Syrian border. It's 15 miles away from the Syrian border. They can also attack our fleet in the Mediterranean. And beyond that, what good does it do? We could end up seeing that we'd end up arming the Muslim fundamentalists who represent the bulk of the fighters at this point against the Assad regime. This is a situation where it's essentially none of our business. All the options are bad. We're only going to make things worse. Okay. And the Republicans see that. That's why they're going to vote 3 or 4 to 1 against this resolution.
All right, quickly, Congressman McDermott, if we hit them, is this an act of war?
Yes.
Very good. Gentlemen?
And it should be declared by the Congress. If we turn it down, he should not go.
Okay. Congressman Alan Grayson and Jim McDermott. Congressman, great to have you with us tonight. Thank you.